It was the middle of summer, and my husband and I decided to go camping at Rock Island, Wisconsin. We had heard about the place before and were excited to experience its remote and primitive atmosphere. To get there, we had to take a ferry off Door County to Washington Island, and then another boat to Rock Island. Once we arrived, we found out that the island had a rich history, with 3 separate cemeteries and building remains from early settlers. On our first night, we decided to go stargazing at a field about a quarter-mile from our campsite. The sky was clear, and the stars shone brightly, making it a perfect night for stargazing. However, as we were making our way to the field, a thick fog started rolling in, which was odd considering the clear sky moments ago. We shrugged it off and continued on, passing by one of the cemeteries. It was then that I noticed a set of glowing eyes in the distance. My heart started racing as I pointed out the glowing eyes to my husband, who shone his flashlight in that direction. To our surprise, we saw 3 to 4 more sets of eyes appear out of nowhere. We stood there in silence, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, the fog thickened, making it even harder to see what was in front of us. It was then that we realized that we were in the midst of a dangerous situation. My husband and I immediately decided to start sprinting back to our campsite. Our hearts were pounding as we ran, the fog obscuring our vision, and the glowing eyes watching us from afar. We were scared out of our minds and could barely catch our breaths when we finally reached our campsite. As we calmed down, we realized that the island was home to a whole lot of foxes who liked to wander near the campsites at night. We had unknowingly stumbled upon them, and they had decided to visit us at the same time. We couldn't help but laugh at ourselves for overreacting and scaring ourselves for no reason. Ever since I was a child, camping had been a cherished tradition in my family. As I grew older, I continued the tradition with my closest friends. This time, we planned a trip to a remote campsite that had a reputation for stunning views and unbeatable solitude. Our journey began with a long drive through winding roads that led us deep into the heart of the wilderness. As we neared our destination, the trees grew denser and the air grew cooler. We finally arrived and set up our tents, eager to embrace the peace and quiet that the forest had to offer. As night fell, we gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and reminiscing about old times. The sounds of the forest enveloped us, providing the perfect backdrop for our laughter and conversation. After a while, we retreated to our tents, lulled to sleep by the soothing serenade of the night. I awoke in the early hours of the morning, disoriented and with a feeling of unease. I couldn't shake the sensation that we were being watched. I decided to take a walk to clear my head and explore our surroundings. As I meandered through the trees, I noticed a man standing at the edge of the clearing, his gaze fixed on our campsite. He wore tattered clothes and had a wild, unkempt appearance. I couldn't see his face clearly, but his stare seemed to bore into me, sending shivers down my spine. I tried to dismiss the encounter, telling myself he was probably just a fellow camper passing by. But as I made my way back to the campsite, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I didn't mention the man to my friends, not wanting to alarm them or ruin our peaceful retreat. The day passed without incident, but as darkness fell once more, my unease returned. I found it difficult to sleep, my mind racing with thoughts of the man I had seen earlier. In the dead of night, I heard rustling outside my tent. My heart pounding, I peeked through the flap, only to find the man from earlier standing mere feet away from our tents, his eyes locked onto mine. I stifled a scream, alerting my friends as quietly as I could. As they emerged from their tents, the man retreated into the shadows. We decided to keep watch for the rest of the night, our sense of safety shattered by the unwelcome intruder. When morning broke, we discovered that our backpacks, filled with food, clothes, and other belongings, were missing. It was clear that the man had been watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike. We felt violated and vulnerable, our peaceful retreat now tainted by the unsettling events that had transpired. We packed up our remaining possessions and left the campsite as quickly as possible. The once comforting embrace of the wilderness now felt oppressive and hostile. As we drove away, I couldn't help but glance back, wondering if the man was still watching us, lurking in the shadows. Our camping trip had been transformed from a peaceful escape to a chilling encounter that would stay with us forever. I had been looking forward to this camping trip for months. It was supposed to be a peaceful getaway from the stresses of everyday life. But as soon as we arrived at the campsite, something felt off. My friend Sam and I set up our tent near the edge of the woods. As we were getting settled in, I noticed a couple of men in a nearby RV staring at us. It made me feel uneasy, but I brushed it off and tried to focus on enjoying the outdoors. That night, we built a campfire and roasted marshmallows. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Sam noticed it too and suggested we turn in for the night. As we crawled into our tent, I heard footsteps outside. They were slow and deliberate, like someone was trying to be quiet. I tried to tell myself it was just an animal, but my mind raced with worst-case scenarios. The next morning, I woke up to find footprints circling our tent. They didn't look like animal tracks. They were too deliberate, too human. We decided to go for a hike to clear our heads. As we were walking, we saw the same two men from the RV earlier. They were walking towards us, and I felt my heart rate spike. They approached us and struck up a conversation, but something about their demeanor was off-putting. They were too friendly, too eager to talk. And then I noticed something glinting in one of their pockets. Was it a knife? Sam and I made an excuse to leave, and we hurried back to our campsite. We packed up our things and left as quickly as we could. I couldn't shake the feeling that those men were following us, even as we drove away. It wasn't until we were safely back home that I felt like we could finally breathe again. Looking back on it, I don't know what those men's intentions were. But I know that we were lucky to get out of there unharmed. From then on, I made sure to trust my instincts when it came to strange or unsettling situations.